Hello everyone and welcome to day 2 of ClayShareCon. We have another exciting tutorial planned. We have Jeff joining us from GR Pottery Forums, and he is going to share some WA or wheel assist basics with you all. I first started using the WA a few years ago when Jeff brought it to NCECA, and I took one home, and it has been amazing for making plates. I've got a few examples of plates that I've made using the WA. You say it like that. There's the bottoms, the feet and everything. So this is one I did. I made the plate and then I did some stamping using underglazes and then adding color and actually banding on the edge. And this is a class on ClayShare, stamping on pottery and using the WA. Here's another one I did because Jeff's going to show us ways to use the WA, but you can put texture on your pieces and then use the WA with it. So, and this one I had to snag from my house because it's one of my children's plates, but we got texture on the back. So you can texture anywhere you want. And Jeff's going to show us more now. Hey Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. Hello. Good morning,
good to see
everybody.
you this morning. Nice to have you back with us for some time with the WA.
Yes, we're here to talk about the WA, and to be honest, I really find the word WA kind of awkward to say, right? And it's like you can only say it well if you like just go for it. So you have to go WA, because if you just go WA, it's kind of like what? And so I feel awkward about it too. So I love it. I love it about it that you have to have this enthusiasm to make it really work. And so yeah, WA. So it came from, people always ask this where that came from or why even do that or call it that, but I love Emeril Lagasse. He's my favorite chef. And when I first really started doing pottery, was really influenced from the Food Network, and I love this kind of influence between food and pottery, and this whole setting that's at the table and what that really means. So that has a big part of who I am, is the table. And it's funny because this morning I probably will show you some photos later on Instagram, but I was preparing chicken. I'm making a dinner tonight for a bunch of like 50 people at church. So I was making chicken this morning. So bam, put some essence in there, and we're gonna make some emerald, what is it even? We're making Alfredo. Yeah, chicken Alfredo. Yeah, so that's what got brewing at the kitchen this morning, and hopefully these young kids will appreciate some good home love cooking.
I bet they will. I would appreciate some.
Yeah, come on over. You're welcome.
I'll be right there.
Come on. Yes. Yeah, so when I was watching the Food Network and watching Emeril Lagasse, you would always have that surprise bam, right? And I thought that I love that, and I think I was trying to incorporate that and be inspired by that to incorporate that in what I was doing, and thought the WA is like the perfect little bam, my perfect bam, I guess, right? So the WA, hopefully maybe some of you are like, what is going on? I always say it starts with a question and ends with excitement, and so it's good. I hope you get some out of this today. And yeah, so we're going to be talking about the wheel attachment, wheel assist, the WA, whatever out there you want to call it. But the important thing is that it really helps us to systemize and center dinnerware and making plates. You constantly get the old potter that comes by and says, why would I use that? I can throw a plate. Yeah, I bet you can. Totally. Me too. But if we wanted to make 16 plates, there is a little bit of awkwardness and uncomfortability and this failure rate that happens in clay, right? And so if we can kind of systemize that and make our lives a little easier to be able to reproduce things much quicker, not necessarily quicker isn't really the way, it's just in the same process and the same, and to basically eliminate some of the variables that happen when we're using the potter's wheel. I mean, I
Much
love
more consistent.
yes. I mean, I love a good wood-fired organic wheel thrown plate, but you know, the reality of having to trim and kind of manage that plate creates a lot of variables. So I think it'd be really difficult for most people to make dinnerware. The actual making of the plate is really easy on the wheel. Once you get, I shouldn't say easy, once you have practiced a lot, you can make plates pretty quickly and efficiently. But it's that time after making them that is the difficult part. And so this system hopefully kind of addresses those problems and questions. That's what it did for me when I first developed it. I want to be able to make dinnerware and help other people to make dinnerware and make them successful, and not be frustrated with that 7th and 8th plate you just made for this beautiful set that just broke or warped or what, you know, something happened in the kiln. So I know with a lot of our products, this looks like a pile of wood, right? Like, what is this pile of wood? It's complicated. Looks complicated, but really, it's really basic. It's really simple, and I think the reason it's complicated is because it's so simple. Really starts out with this simple peg, which is just like a bat pin, just shorter. And it basically, it's going to house the round forms with a hole on them. And then this next part is the actual, what we refer to as the wah. It has a hole in the center, and that houses that spacer. And I can tell you, I'm going to show you in a minute why the hole is important, because really, honestly, I could just have a board that had a peg in the middle, right? But there's a critical part of having this hole in the middle so that we can push from below to release our piece from the back, from the board. So that's what this is. And so this is the one thing you only, as a maker, only need one of in the system. You only need to have one of these ones with a hole in the center. All these other parts, it's up to you. I think the spacer is one of the most critical parts of this system. And so to have lots of these is it's a real benefit, because it helps, as we talked about yesterday, if you're making an exterior lip, it really helps you to dress that lip, and it also helps you to center things. So the other beautiful thing about this system is maybe you're really uncomfortable with using a potter's wheel and you're just strictly a hand builder. You can just use the system without a wheel. Maybe have a banding wheel like Michael was just using. You can just set this on top of the banding wheel, and then the part of that center part helps us to basically center that for us in the middle of this board. And so then if you wanted to make a hand built lip, you could do it by, you could figure out a way to do that as well. So you don't have to have a wheel. And that's why I kind of like how Jess calls it the wheel assist, because you can use the wheel to assist in this process. It's not a necessity, but it definitely will kind of, if you like using power, it makes you feel like you have a little more power, right? So yeah, so that's what the wheel is. So don't worry if you don't have a potter's wheel, you don't have to have one. It's the system is really still helpful to kind of center things and be able to address that outside lip by having it being centered. All right, and then the third piece is just this board, which is like a bat, right? And so in the beginning, I thought, oh, well, everybody's going to want to have a whole bunch of these. And well, everybody has a whole bunch of bats already, right? Or if they have a wheel, they probably have a bunch of bats. So this is really like a bat. So you could use just a regular bat. I like that all these parts are consistent and the same. So it really helps my mind to be to not be distracted. And so I really like that they kind of fit with each other. The other thing that I would note though with these, if you are doing a lot of wheel throwing, this board is great. This material is great for slabs, right? We talked about that a little bit yesterday in the basics. It can handle a little bit of moisture really well, But as you start to get a ton of moisture, it can start to soften and kind of start to deteriorate a lot quicker. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend using them for bats for using on the wheel as for throwing with and using a ton of water. Like in the system that I'm going to do here, I'm not going to use a splash pan. So that shows you how limited the moisture is. But if you're making plates on the wheel, a lot of times you use a lot of moisture, and this is not the best for that. So, but it still can work, and it still use the same rules if you dry it out after you use it and not let it stay moist for a long period of time. It can still use it as well too. We're all about breaking those rules, but I would just kind of caution you that that this material is really ideal for slabs. So, yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure. Yeah.
So the pins that you use, one of our members just commented that her pins were accidentally thrown away. Can you get replacements at the hardware store?
You sure can. Yep. They're called 1/4-20 cap screws. And if you go to Home Depot, they sell them in like a little 4-pack. And they're like 3/8 of an inch long. And if you are putting in an order with us, we have extras. You can buy them. They're $2 for a little pack of 4. So plus the 20% off discount during the conference. So you could also do that too. But I really highly recommend gluing them in because you'll never need them loose once you have them at your shop. So just put a little glue in there, like wood glue, Elmer's glue, and then you don't have to chase them. And then they also, when you're taking them out of the form, sometimes, especially when the forms are new, they want to stick in there. So if you glue them into the spacer, they won't stick in there, and you won't have to fight them. So yeah, but yeah, that's a great question.
Thanks for the gluing them in tip. I never thought to do that, and I need to because I lose mine all the time.
Yeah, and especially if you're in your studio, I always think because of traveling, I want to have them loose so they stack nicer. But once you're in your studio, then they're better with that pin. And you can deal with that. One thing I didn't talk about, one feature that the wash system has on the bottoms of these boards is this kind of locating system. And I'll show you this in a little bit again, but I at the beginning when I was trying to do demos for people, I would fight to get the bat onto the pins, right? And so we have this nice long place to be able to find that pin and then locate it. So I'll show you in a minute, but all the boards have that configuration on there to help you get it onto your top of your wheel better. So yeah. So those are the parts. Those are these 3 parts, and that's as simple as that. It only has the single hole in the bottom of the form, so it's real easy. One thing to know that because it's got that single hole, and we get this question a lot. If you pre-cut a slab and you put it on top, so it's not going past the wood, the form outside of the edge, it may spin, right? So you either have to put clay on the outside edge to hold it in place, but this was designed to be really simple, and that the clay is going to hold it to the board on this one actually. But I'll talk about that too when we make a plate. So we're just about to do it. So yeah, and so the clay is really what's holding that form in place, holding it from twisting. So if you're having a problem with it slipping, it's basically you got to compress that clay down to the board a little bit to hold it in place. So super simple. Yeah. So, and I'm all about making things better. So let's make a plate here. So, I think to me, I feel like I really love this conference and really love that it kind of highlights the different tools that are out there and available to be used. And that's what's great about NCECA too, but this to me is great. So I kind of want to just talk about a little bit of other equipment in this. And I'm not paid by anybody to endorse products. a lot of times people give me products to use and try and encourage me to use them in demos, but I am not paid by any manufacturer to endorse certain things. So I just really have been using what I have, and I think Jess is really similar in this. That I just use products that I feel really work well for me, and so if you were gonna get a wheel, I would highly recommend this Artista wheel. It is great for a small studio if you're not making big, massive bowls or big like Adam Field kind of work, like massive jars. This will not work for making jars, but this will, like if you want to make intimate little cups, this is great bowls, and especially if you want to use the wah, it fits on here perfectly. Like you don't have to change anything. I don't have the splash pan on here, but other than that, it will fit really nicely and work really well. So this is what I call the bronze version. So this is like a little lower price point. It's great for me to haul around for to do demos and stuff. And like if I need to move it off where I'm doing demos, it's really easy. It would be a great thing to start off a birthday party business and bring them and set them on people's driveways and let them spray them off.
I just got an Artista wheel. One of our members bought one and she wasn't using it anymore and she gifted it to me. So I have one. I love it. I mean, I have my bigger wheels and I use them often too, but I love the small one for the wah and hand building and just want to throw a few small cups. I think the weight limit on those are 25 pounds. It can throw up to. 25 pounds. That's still a lot of clay. Like most people will not throw more than 25 pounds of clay ever. And the fact that it's portable and just goes on a tabletop, it's great. And I'm like you, I'm not paid by anybody to advertise any products at all. So if I find something I like, I only talk about it because I like it.
Exactly. And it works really well for me. And that the wheel I just showed you is from Speedball. So you may have saw the
we did the tour yesterday.
The tour yesterday at Speedball, yeah. So with Bud there, so they're the ones that are making those. Now next would be the gold version. So both are Olympians still. Both are medal-winning Olympians in my mind. But this is the gold version. If you want a wheel that's gonna, last you for the next 20 years, the Brent wheel is ideal. And and so I really like this one. It's got some legs on it, so it lifts it up a little bit. But we kind of get in the habit of having ones that just sit on the ground because that's what we learned at a play school. But this one is propped up, so it really works well in a position that works well for my height and to get my back at a certain stage. So this is the Brent, and so those are the wheels I would recommend, and these have a super high resale value too. So maybe you want to buy one of these. If 5 years you decide I don't want to deal with this, you can probably sell it for pretty close to what you paid for it too. So it's definitely an investment, but it's definitely a 10-year warranty, and it's a very high quality wheel. So so let's make some plates here. Oh, sorry.
Before you go too much further, can I ask you, you were selling the Artista wheels for a little while. Do you still have any of those? Are you still selling them?
I'm not. I don't have any right now. They're dealing with a lot of supply issues, and I might have them again in the future. It's just not. I originally got them because I thought it'd be easy for people, and I really like that they're under $500. So I felt like, when now with the prices of everything going up, it becomes more of a question of which one to buy. So I just have, I don't have many available right now. But like Clay King or a lot of the distributors, Clay Planet, Tucky Mudworks,
I see Bailey has them. Yeah, Bailey Pottery has some. So that's those.
Playscape probably, and so so maybe in the future I'll have some, but I was really just trying to make it easy for people, like one shop. But I really don't have a lot of other tools yet as to be a distributor per se. So I decided for now we'll just let everybody else sell them for a while and see what happens. So, but yeah, I would just you can look out on the. Thank you for asking that and checking. But if you look out, if you search them online, you'll find them in multiple places. They're great. So yeah. Any other questions about so far?
We're good. Folks were asking, will you talk about warping and how to prevent that with this? And
yeah, I'll try to get into it a little bit. Warping is just one of those complicated questions that there's so many variables, and it's kind of one of those things where you've got to figure it out. To be honest, you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. Like, I can give you tips and tricks, and we have zillions of them on our website and they're frequently asked questions. But most of that is just kind of trial and error. And I think the biggest thing is like when it dries. Like if you're not super cautious about where that plate is setting when it's drying, and that's probably the reason it's going to warp with these slabs. There's so much surface area that has to dry, and there's so many variables in your studio. So try to put it in an undrafted area to let it dry. Because if one side dries faster than the other, you're going to probably get warping. So yeah, but sorry, I have a really difficult time making short answers questions.
well, yeah, but that's okay. There's a lot to cover.
Sure. So again, I have that locating groove. I can find my bat pin, push it to the end, and then twist, and then it drops right down. So my favorite part, like used to be like the dread of like, oh no, I got to put the bat on top of the wheel, right? But now we can, now it just slips right on there. So I rolled out a slab. You can do it by hand or on a slab roller. Slab roller recommendations is really tricky. I noticed somebody in the studio tour this morning had a Bailey roller, and I have a Bailey slab roller here too. They're just a little bit difficult to get. So, and there's a couple other ones out on the market, but I don't know. I feel like it could be a hole in the market is slab rollers. So I feel like there could be a company that could make more efficient, better slab rollers, but they're definitely good. There's definitely good ones out there. I'm not saying that they're not good, but I feel like there could be a better mousetrap. So I like hand smooth the slab with the rib, and now I'm going to use my rib to compress it, right?
So I'm going to let you know your overhead view is good. You're just a little low in the frame. So we're almost cutting off the bottom of what we can see. I hate to bother you mid broadcast. There you go. There you go. That's better.
There we go.
That's better.
Trying to eliminate getting me in that picture.
It's the trick. I always try to stay out of it.
Yes, camera tricks. So anyway, we're just so now it's prepped. Like if I want to add some texture, this is a great time to do that. And why not use one of these nice fancy slab rolling pins, right?
So fancy.
Last one. But that's the advantage of hand building and making hand built work is that we can add in of this nice beautiful texture. Sometimes with functional plates, you may just be cautious of that. And I have some demos and stuff where we talk about more other ways to add on different texture, add on different design surface techniques. But just for this demo, this is basics. I want to just kind of be simple and show you when you can choose texture, but really we're just focused on the basics here. So so now we house the form on top. this particular one, the texture is like kind of, I would call it like, for some reason I call it like a wallpaper pattern. It like covers there's probably some other better design term. It's covering the whole surface of the plate. It's not specific to a certain part of the plate. So it doesn't really matter how I put it onto the form. So now I can just drape it. Love that drape. Right over top. And gently if I have to move it. And now I just have that slab just draped right over top, right? And again, we could do this by hand. The wheel definitely is a fun little bonus here. But before I get the wheel going, what I want to do is kind of move the clay towards the form. Thickness of clay is a good question. Like you know, you can get away with it being pretty thin, and especially if you want to make nice, delicate, like China style plates, kind of formal dining ware. You can use porcelain. You could use really thin clay, but just be really cautious again about this this ridge area here, right? And this is where all the cracking and the problems can occur. So just know that and be conscious of it. So one way to help not tear that edge down is to push the clay toward the form. And then second,
I found out the hard way the first time I used my wah. I went too thin on that ridge and the bottoms just popped off, perfect little circles, popped right off.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the fun area. You know, the edge of the ridge is like the danger zone. That's where you all want to be in, right? Is that gives us the most excitement, but it's really easy to thin that out and compress that, right? So next,
what size form are you using on that right now?
I'm using a 9.5 inch form. I like the 9.5 for the dinnerware because I like to put a big lip on it, decorative lip. So, so that's what I'm going for here. So the second pass of pressure here is just gently putting my fingers on here and letting it form to the plate. And again, I'm not trying to use really fast, quick motions of pressure because that will could cause uneven compression and cause warping problems. So maybe if you're having problems with warping, you just need to be gentle with that clay and treat it nicely. So now I'm going to use my little. So the third level is to use a rib. I'm going to go, stop! I don't want to get too close to that edge. Scared of heights. So now I'm going to start on the outside and work my way up that ridge to almost even like push some clay to that edge. And again, I want to make sure that the outside part is attached really well to the board, because if I just lumped on a piece of clay, if I push down, it might just stop and spin. So it's really good. I love those canvas marks are like a good indication of, you know, whether I have compressed the clay enough. So I want to get to a point where I've eliminated all those canvas marks. I've seen, you know, we all have our kind of ways of doing things, and I really like Jessica's way where you just take a ruler and measure how big you want that lip, and then cut it on there, right? But since I got this fancy sew tool, I'm going to use it to give me, because I like to mark about 1 3/4 inches to make the lip, and so then if I just push gently, so it starts to glide along the clay, just let it kind of float there for a little bit, and then gently start to add that tip. So now I can add that point of where I'm going to cut that lip, right? So gentle is good, right? Clay didn't do anything to us. We don't have to take it out on the clay. So now you can see it's so important. Like if you're having difficulties, I like Michael's tip this morning about using the paper towel as a prop. but try to have some way, because if you just have your hands kind of floating, it's going to kind of float with the wheel. So I have mine rested against the board here, and then I even take my other hand and hit a two-hander here, and I'm just going to gently let that knife kind of just enter the clay. So the slower, the smoother it is, the easier it is, right? So if you're having difficulty, just slow down, be gentle. And at the end, you just go, whoa! That's when the excitement happens. That's when you get wild, do the dance. So I just cut a little strip of clay. Originally, I thought, oh, maybe I need a clay extruder or something to be able to make a little tube for the top. But what I think is great is that we can use the same thickness of clay. And the most important thing is the moisture content. Making sure that that moisture of the clay is the same throughout, it's consistent, right? So I know it is because I just took it from the outside and put it in the middle. So it's in a pretty good shape. I just want to make sure that that seam is really well. A lot of times people ask, you know, why aren't you scoring or slipping? Same thing as yesterday. It's something that I can get away with not doing, so I'm going to not do it. I can focus on something else. So, and other little feature here, basic. My general rule for all forms, all methods, is if it's bigger than 8 inches. 8 inches is the one that I can get away with not doing. If it's bigger than 8 inches, so this is 9.5. So now I want to put a center support on there. And the center support will help stop it from sagging in the middle. So now I'm going to just take a moist sponge, moisten that whole strip of clay first before I give it any kind of pressure. And then start with the inside finger by pushing it out, and that will help you to center it. And then once it's centered, we can add some pressure from the top to, and again, be careful. You may have been really careful on this ridge, but if you're not close enough to this edge and you're putting pressure right here, this pressure on the outside can also thin out that area by the ridge.
Mm-hmm.
The center one is really tricky. So sometimes even if you just want a solid chunk of clay in the middle, that works too. You just need to have something there to prevent it from going down deep. And to get the same height, I don't, all I know is if I use the same slab, it's going to be pretty close. And then I may just emphasize going a little shallower on the inside because that will just ensure that that middle part isn't going to create a crown. And then I just use this, I love this wooden tool. Again, Kemper's not, and I'm not trying to sell you these, it's just a tool that I love and want to use. It's just really soft and easy to clean that clay off, and I like it, the versatility of it.
That tool's been around for a long time because when I started 20 years ago, I had one of those, and we didn't have all the fancy tools or the color shapers or silicone things, and that's it. You had the little box of wooden Kemper tools, and that's all you had. And I used it all the time. I think I still have my original one somewhere in a cup on a shelf, but they're great. Sometimes those old tools are the best tools.
Yeah, I think, same thing. I think I bought this in 1993. I was working a stone sculpture supplier, and they did clay stuff too, but in Florida, Montoya Stone Supply. I don't know if anybody in Florida knows that, but I worked there for 4 months, and I bought that tool because it was they were saying yesterday 90 cents. So I was like, oh, I can afford that. Clay tools. All right, here we go. So now I have this nice big lip, and what I want to do is I want to be as gentle to this lip as possible. And so I'm going to push from underneath. And then you want to form the wall bracelet.
And saying "wah" when you do it.
The wobbling. So now we have that spacer, the center part is still in there. Sorry, Kevin, you're probably wondering which camera. And so now I'm going to put this on the form, gentle as possible. Gentle is my word today, I think. And so now that spacer's on there, so what I can do is push down this out, and it almost naturally this drapes down and forms that nice kind of lip. And it's got a little bit of angle on it, so it's going to help in that firing process. There you go. Let's hear it, everybody.
Wah! I hope everybody at home did that as well.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's do. We're gonna do a bowl now here. I'm leaving by. No. All right. So another slab had prepped over here. Thankfully, I got a bunch of wall boards. So already another one here ready to go.
So I want to make an announcement for folks who are watching. If you were watching on the ClayShare app or clayshare.com, we've just got notification that there's been a cloud flare issue in Boston, which has affected our clayshare.com website and our app. So the cloud flare is happening, but we are still recording this and it's still broadcasting on YouTube and on Facebook. So the replay will be available and in full, but the live viewing is not happening on the app or ClayShare. So thank you, Cloudflare, for that during ClayShareCon. Yay, Mother Nature. Happens. We can do nothing about it. It's a cloud flare. So
cloud flare. Wow.
Yeah.
Can they be more gentle?
Right? You would think so. They need to be gentle like we are to our clay.
That's right. So we might as well be gentle in the studio here, right? It's our space away from all that mess.
Exactly.
So I'm going to use this rib again. I'm just going to prep a slab here. And I'm going to make a bowl. I'm going to make this bowl here. And you can see in this one, I basically incorporated the pattern in there to like kind of hide those kind of lines that are developed by the form. So let's just make I'm going to try to be basic, but I got to add some texture here. We're just going to go the whole way. Just do it. Go for it. Here's the fun. It's clay, so you can, do what you want. Woo, look at that.
Look at you go.
It's just fun just to develop that texture, right? So now, maybe I'll put them a little bit off center to freak people out, right?
I love it. I love that right there.
That's a joy of handmade, right? Is that you can add these fun little surprises. Well, one other little thing, especially if you're hand building. Sorry, I almost forgot about talk about this. I want to talk about this in a minute. Was I just took a Sharpie, I made lines on here, and then I just used the Sharpie to make lines to help line things up. So this is very costly for me to do this from a manufacturing perspective. But if you want this, it's real simple to do. Most everybody has a Sharpie, right? Or even a pencil will work. And just to make these lines, if you need the help to line up your pieces. Pro tip. All right, so we're going to make a bowl here. Got a little bit of clay on it from before. So I really like to make clean, simple, and just set it off to the side, make sure it's dry. But the next time you can just scrape that right off. If I were to wash this off with a sponge, I'm then going to add moisture to the, especially right now if I clean this with a sponge, what I'm trying to say, then it's going to add moisture to this board, and that's going to affect how I'm making these things. So keeping things dry is really critical in making things with clay, right? It's really all about this managing of moisture. So this time I'm going to use a 9.5, 8-inch, and a 6.5. I'm going to stack these all on here. And I know there's lots of ways. You guys have great ideas of adhering these together, but I'm really more focused on using them independently. So from time to time when I want to make a bowl, I'm just going to kind of deal with it because I'm going to make way more plates. And the only thing I have to deal with is these marks, and I'm going to have the marks anyway. So let's just go for it. No fretting.
Now, you know what I found works really great with stacking is if you just use a damp sponge and wipe the surfaces that are going to be touching, and just a little friction from the water is enough.
Yes.
And then it dries, and it's not, you don't have any attachments or anything.
Yeah. So see, there's
Keeps
all
it
these good strategies of how you can do that.
Potters are problem solvers.
Yes, and you have to be a potter. Goes with each
Yes.
other.
They go hand in hand.
Yes. So you can have all the cool tools and look good, but if you want to be a potter, you gotta be able to deal with these problems. And most of
Quick question on your concentric circles that you have. Did you measure those? How far apart are they, or did you just eyeball that? The circles on your bat that you have.
I measured them. Yeah, I did measure
Measured
them. So
them.
they were. I mean, you don't really need to, because it's really just kind of an eyeball thing. So there's probably not a point where you need to know this is going to be 8 inches. This is going to be 10 inches. It really is just a way of kind of like on the top of the wheel, on top of banding wheel, it has those marks, but I don't know if they're really as specific. Has anybody ever measured them to see what the distance is? No, they're just, I think they're really just used to eyeball it, right? One quick note on this is, like, you can see these folds, and I think we only have about 5 minutes, 3 minutes left. So we're going to kind of move quicker on this end part. But there's these folds that develop when you have a taller stack, right? And so the tendency is to just quickly push down, but we have to really gently kind of maybe even move the clay a little bit to kind of gently, evenly kind of disperse those folds that are in there. So be really soft, and what's that word? Gentle. Be real gentle with the clay, and just ease it in there. It's not in a hurry. We're not in traffic, and basically go around and make sure that all those folds are kind of blended in. So there's a real tendency, if you move really quickly, you're going to have a crease under there. So just kind of just do it softer. So then once it's on there, now I can basically, I take my finger and go around the edges, and I can feel, looks like it moved just slightly from this angle. I can feel if it's got a little ridge in there, just a little bit of a bump. So then I'll push it into where I feel like it doesn't have a bump, right? And then what I want to do is get the wheel started. And I want to make sure this outside clay is stuck to the board. And then I'm going to take my rib and just gently start out. If you start out soft and gentle at the beginning, you won't create as many problems. If you start out hard, you're going to have some kickback. I say it's a lot like dealing with teenagers. You gotta only have one angle of pressure, not multiple. One's enough. Multiple, you're not going to know where it's going to go. So again, I'm pushing all this clay up to the ridge. Okay, let's do this. Finish this up here. I'm going to put. Yeah, we got 1 minute, 2 minutes. What time do we have there, Jess?
We can go over. We can go over a bit. We're at time,
Okay.
but we can go. Can give you
Okay.
5 more minutes, Jeff, just for you.
5 minutes. All right. Deal. All right. And so I'm gonna make a little foot ring again here. And I did it as far on the outside as I can, in case I want to incorporate a different design. I'll show you in a minute. So I just want to show you, like, you know, this is the basic round, but if you want to kick it up a notch, right? Anybody know who says that?
Yes.
Everall. Let's kick it up a notch. My problem in my life is trying to kick it up a notch and cause problems. All right, so we got that on there. Let's quick do this. The bottom form is only 6.5, so I don't really need to put a center piece in there. Then I wet my fingers, wet the little coil, and now remember, 1 point of pressure, gentle, push from the inside, and push that clay right over top of that ridge. Form it into a plate.
So when you're kicking it up a notch, we've had a comment saying in pottery, if you kick it up a notch, you could send things flying. So
Yeah,
maybe we need to take it down a notch. In pottery, we're taking it down a notch.
Yes. And so here I'm going to make a straight edge. I'm just going to cut these edges off. So there's no rules. You can make that how you want to make it. So now you can turn your round form into a square bowl, right?
I'm so glad you did that, because we just had someone saying, would Jeff show how he made that form? Because you have one off to the side.
Oh, yeah. So see, this was a little bit more time. So I made this kind of spherical square edge. Maybe you want to make it to go with your spherical square forms, right?
Love it.
Now, again, we're finishing. This is it. Put it on the board. Slide over. Still has that spacer, so that it still can give me a little bit of an angle on that outside edge. Pretty critical for the firing process. There we go.
And so then you leave it on the form for how long? Do you leave it on till it's leather hard?
Yes. And so even with this big stack, the clay actually still this kind of ellipse up. And so I'm, you know, basically I'm going to leave it here in the studio. It's about 6 hours or so, and it will come right off. If you have to pull those pieces out, like try to wedge them out, if the clay is really too soft. And the only really disadvantage of that, you can take them out earlier. It's just that you may cause some warping when you take them out. There's this things that move around and flex when you're kind of fussing with it. So if you leave it gentle and let it do its thing, it's gonna keep its shape way better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks take the clay off the form too soon, and that's why they're getting a lot of warping issues. I made a series of 98 plates for a wall installation using your hexagon forms that went to Chicago, and that was on exhibition at the Veteran Art Museum there. And I made the plates one day, left them on the form overnight, didn't take them off until they were almost dry the next day, because I had 10 forms. So I did 10 a day, right? Or times 20. Yeah. But I left them on a long time. They dry up off the form so they don't warp. And then you just take the form out and make another plate. But it's great. Not a single one warped. Not one out of 98 plates. Yeah. Right? The odds.
So it's definitely same, you know, doing production, like, it, you know, unfortunately for your budget, you might need more forms, but if you really want the success, it really helps to give them their own space and time to do that. So, especially on those really large, delicate pieces that you spend a lot of time decorating. No, this is another really quick thing. There's endless things, right? But I see a lot, like even Kathy's thing, like you make this beautiful decorated piece. All you have to do is put little holes in the foot. So adding a foot on there can really then make them hangable. I think you did something similar with your hex plates too, right? It's
I did. So, I put integrated hangers, so that they could hang on the wall without seeing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you so much. So we did go a little over, but that's okay. We could keep going, but we don't have time today. But Jeff will be back with us. Jeff, you're going to be with us tomorrow because we're going to be using JR Pottery forms for measuring. So thank you very much, Jeff, for this really great demo using the wah.
Yeah, you have to say wah like that. And I love seeing that squared off bowl. That was amazing and all that. So thank you, Jeff, for this. We are going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to be back at 12:30. And we have Billy Ritter joining us. And if you like big bowls and cannot lie, you're not going to want to miss this because he's going to be throwing and trimming big bowls on the Brent pottery wheel. So I'll see you all back here.